Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good day, welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. You can watch this program live on our Facebook page, that's Radyo Pilipinas World Service, and you can also hear us live on audio streaming at Evox PBS Receiver app. So join us for another edition of Front and Center with your host, Jerome Toledo.
Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
So in response to the growing number of human immunodeficiency virus or HIV cases in the country, Senator Loren Legarda backs the Department of Health's call to declare a national public health emergency of the surge in HIV cases. So this after the health department reported a 500% surge in cases among Filipinos aged 15 to 25 in the first quarter this year. The latest HIV/AIDS surveillance report showed that there are 148,831 HIV cases recorded nationwide from 1984 to March as of this year. So a total of 5,101 cases were logged during the first quarter of this year. That's higher than more than 3,400 recorded during the same period last year. So meanwhile, an average of 57 HIV cases were reported daily, also higher than the 37 recorded during the same period last year. So these include the case of a 12-year-old girl from Palawan, the youngest confirmed case in the region who got infected through sexual transmission. Meanwhile, another senator in the name of Senator Sharon Gatchalian called the reported 500% increase in HIV infections among young Filipinos a public health emergency that demands urgent government response. Senator Gatchalian urged the Department of Education to address inconsistencies in its 2018 policy on reproductive health education and ensure its proper implementation, and emphasize the need to engage parents and strengthen values formation through existing education programs.
Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
In another developments here in the country, the Philippines has signed a contract calling for the delivery of 12 additional units of Korea Aerospace Industries or KAI Mach 1.5 capable FA-50 fighter jets. That's according to the South Korea media that was reported on Wednesday. So the contract, which is worth 1 trillion won or around $700 million, was signed by ranking officials of the Department of National Defense and the KAI on June 3. So that's according to a report that was reported by a business news website, Joseon Biz. So it added the contract also includes logistical supplies or logistical support, and deliveries are expected from 2026 to 2030. And the report said that these FA-50 aircrafts are the more improved version of the current FA-50s in service with the Philippine Air Force. So the DND has yet to confirm this information from South Korea media reports. But the PAF, on the other hand, has acquired 12 FA-50s from the Korea Aerospace Industries, sorry, Korea Aerospace Industries for 18.9 billion pesos under the AFP modernization program. The delivery of the aircraft began in 2015 and was completed in 2017. So one of the FA-50s with the tail number 002 crashed this year in March 4 in Bukidnon while en route to provide firepower to army soldiers fighting New People's Army rebels. So at the same time, the PAF said the proposals to acquire the additional FA-50 fighter jets are under the Re-Horizon 3 of the Armed Forces Modernization Program. So the FA-50s have a top speed of 1 point or Mach 1.5 or 1.5 times the speed of sound and is capable of being fitted with air-to-air missiles including the AIM-9 or AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air and heat-seeking missiles aside from light automatic cannons and bombs. See, and the bombs or the aircraft had its baptism of fire during the Battle of for Marawi in 2017 where it was extensively used in providing air support in the fighting against ISIS terrorists that was raged from May to October 2017.
Front and center. Front and center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Okay, let's go to the Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program. So, the Malacanang said the PUV or Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program will proceed. That's according to Undersecretary and Palace Press Officer Claire Castro. And also, Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon recently presented to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. the Public Transport Modernization Program or PTMP. So it changed the name, but the purpose is the same. So that PTMP was presented to the president of its current challenges, particularly the readiness of jeepney drivers and operators to comply with cooperative and financial requirements. Yusek Castro said the government must first ensure that drivers and operators are trained and supported in forming and managing cooperatives. And the government is also now considering tapping more manufacturers to help reduce the cost of modern units. So in the same press briefing, the government also flagged the affordability of loan payments and concern over the route availability, especially in areas with low jeepney presence. So this will be addressed in coordination with the local government units. So going back in 2023, a party list lawmaker Wilbert Lee called on Land Bank of the Philippines, the Development Bank of the Philippines, and other government financial institutions to simplify and streamline the loan requirements for transport cooperatives and corporations to purchase modern jeepneys. So Lee pointed out that a jeepney driver or operator who earns about 500 to 750 pesos a day cannot afford to buy a modern jeep that's worth more than 2 million pesos. So the president welcomed the recommendations and said the implementation must be well thought out and fair. And the PUV modernization program or PTMP or PUVMP seeks to replace traditional jeepneys with safer, more efficient and environment friendly vehicles. And at the same time, it has faced resistance from transport groups due to high cost and implementation concerns.
Front and center. Front and center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
And before we head to our break, Senate President Francis Escudero has denied allegations that he is stalling the impeachment proceedings against Vice President Sara Duterte, saying the Senate adheres to its constitutional duties and internal rules. The Senate chief blasts critics claiming of his inaction towards that complaint, pointing out that the House of Representatives itself took over 2 months to act on the impeachment complaints. And the Senate is expected to convene as an impeachment court and issue summons to Duterte on June 11, the last possible day for such actions before Congress adjourns sine die on June 13. So we will discuss that developments in the particularly the impeachment complaint that is being taken by the Senate. So we will have the constitutional law expert to explain us regarding that development when Front and Center returns.
Paliwanag mo sa tao na hindi totoo yan.
Dahil ang totoo, yung totoo ang dapat ninyong malaman.
Nagkalat sa internet ang fake news
Ang
o
ginagawa
mali
ng
at
fake news, tinatapon niyo yung tao.
What they are doing is creating panic.
We say no.
Yung pagkalat ng fake news. And some of it's dangerous.
Sana iwasan po natin pag-spread ng fake news.
At di magpapakalat ng disinformation at misinformation ang kasulukuyang administrasyon.
Stop telling us fake news because you're wrong.
Para sa totoo at mapagkakatiwalaang mga balita at impormasyon, Radyo Pilipinas. Pinangunahan ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. ang ikatlong tranche ng refleeting program ng National Irrigation Administration sa Barangay Wawa, Taguig City.
Napakahalaga ng refleeting program ng NIA lalo na po sa panahon ngayon. Mabigat ang pagsubok na kinakaharap ng ating mga magsasaka dahil nga sa dinudulot na climate change. Mas matinding init, mas malalang ulan at pabago-bago at hindi malaman kung anong dry season na, kung wet season, pabago-bago ang panahon.
Kabilang sa mga ipinamahagi ay mga kagamitang pang-irigasyon, pansaka at mga operations and maintenance equipment.
Sa tulong ng mga sasakyan, backhoe, dump truck, excavator, umaasa tayo na mas bibilis ang pagsasaayos ng mga nasirang irigasyon at ang pagpapatayo ng mga bagong proyektong patubig. Mula Luzon hanggang Mindanao, maging lowland man o upland farming, siguradong may maasahang sistemang patubig ang mga magsasaka natin.
Para sa iba pang mga balita at impormasyon, manatiling nakatuto. Tapat sa pag-uulat. Radyo Pilipinas, Radyo Publiko, 738.
Paliwanag mo sa tao na hindi totoo yan.
Dahil ang totoo, yung totoo ang dapat ninyong malaman.
Nagkalat sa internet ang fake news
Ang
o
ginagawa
mali
ng
at
fake news, tinatapon niyo yung tao.
What they are doing is creating panic.
We say no.
Yung pagkalat ng fake news. And some of it's dangerous.
Sana iwasan po natin pag-spread ng fake news.
At di magpapakalat ng disinformation at misinformation ang kasulukuyang administrasyon.
Stop telling us fake news because you're wrong.
Para sa totoo at mapagkakatiwalaang mga balita at impormasyon, Radyo Pilipinas.
This is a public service announcement. Maging handa sa oras ng sakuna. Para sa iyo at sa iyong pamilya, laging siguruhin, Go Bag ay nakahanda at naglalaman ng mga sumusunod. Ilang pirasong damit, ready-to-eat na pagkain at inuming aabot ng 3 araw. Personal na gamit para sa inyong hygiene. First aid kit kabilang ang alcohol, bandages, gamot sa lagnat, ubo at sipon, pati na rin ang inyong vitamins at maintenance medicines. Maglagay ng pito, flashlight, lighter o posporo. Huwag kalimutan ang mga charger o power bank. At higit sa lahat, isama ang mga importanteng gamit gaya ng inyong mga legal na dokumento, IDs, ATM o passbook, insurance at iba pa. This is a public service announcement.
Public service announcement.
From PBS, Presidential Broadcast Service, and Radyo Pilipinas.
This is a public service announcement.
VOG. Ito ay isang uri ng air pollution na galing sa pulkan. Ito ay nagtataglay ng sulfur dioxide na kapag nalanghap ay maaaring magdulot ng pag-ubo, hirap sa paghinga, pangangati ng lalamunan, paninikip ng dibdib at iritasyon sa mata. Mapanganib ito para sa mga taong may hika, sakit sa baga, sakit sa puso, matatanda, buntis at mga bata. Anong mga dapat gawin kapag may VOG? Iwasan ang outdoor activities. Kung kinakailangan lumabas ng bahay, magsuot ng N95 face mask. Kung may iritasyon sa mata, dahan-dahang banlawan ng mata gamit ang malinis na tubig. Dalasan ang pag-inom ng tubig kung sakaling makaranas ng paninikip ng dibdib o hirap sa paghinga. At kung patuloy na mahirapan sa paghinga, dalhin ang pasyente sa pagamutan. Maging alerto at ingatan ang sarili mula sa panganib na hatid ng VOG.
This is a public service announcement.
Public service announcement.
From PBS, Presidential Broadcast Service, and Radyo Pilipinas.
Time to celebrate kulturang Pinoy, tradisyon, musika, sining, literatura at iba pa. Anything and everything fun and Filipino. Ito ang Pinoy Kultura.
How could you ever forget the magical feeling that courtship or panliligaw brings in your younger years?
High school life, for my high school life, every memory kay ganda.
Nandyan yung itutulak ka ng tropa whenever your crush passes by.
Ang saya ng high school, senior years in my school, di na mapapantayan.
Then you start sending her love letters and flowers at paminsay maglalakas loob ka to ask if you could walk her home.
I've fallen for you.
And it doesn't end there. May sayawan o disco pag birthday ng barkada and you get to see her there too.
Till I met you.
Kikiligin ka pag sulyap ni crush. Yayain mong sumayaw pag tugtog ng pinakahihintay na love song. And that evening seems so perfect na parang kayo lang ang tao sa dance floor.
I love you more each day.
Oh, the beauty of courtship in Pinas.
Yan ang Pinoy Kultura because our culture is cool.
Front and center. Front and center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome back to Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. So, like what I said earlier before we head into our break, so we will have the constitutional law expert to explain us about the developments on the the upcoming impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. So, as Senate President Francis Escudero has denied allegations that he is stalling the impeachment proceedings against Vice President Sara Duterte. So we now have on the line si Attorney Egon Cayosa, the constitutional law expert and former National President of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. Attorney Cayosa, good morning. This is Jerome Toledo from Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good morning, Jerome, at magandang umaga sa lahat ng nakikinig sa inyong programa.
Ayan, magandang umaga po, Attorney Cayosa. So, dininay po ni Senate President Francis Escudero itong mga alegasyon na para pinipigilan po niya ang impeachment proceedings laban kay Vice President Sara Duterte. Sinasabi po niya ang Senado ay nag-a-adhere lamang o sumusunod sa constitutional duties and internal rules. Ano po ang inyong pananaw ukol po rito, Attorney Cayosa?
Simple lang ho. Actions speak louder than words. Makikita sa gawa, hindi sa nawa. So it is clear from what is transpired that the Senate, through the Senate President, has delayed or stalled the impeachment proceedings. If you remember, the impeachment complaint, a very valid impeachment complaint, was filed by more than 2/3 of the members of the House of Representatives.
Mm.
It was received by the Senate while they were still in session, but they did not take it up.
Mm-hmm.
When they were reminded by many scholars and their fellow lawmakers that the Constitution says once they receive the impeachment complaint, the trial shall forthwith proceed.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't do that. So what did he say? Don't worry, we're just on vacation. We're just campaigning. Immediately after the election, we will give this first priority. He even set a date. When that date was already forthcoming, he said he postponed it again to June 11,
Mm-hmm.
citing as a flip series on they have priority bills. But if you look at the Senate rules on impeachment and the language of the Constitution and the minutes of the Constitutional Convention, when there is impeachment, it is supposed to take precedence over any other work of the Senate because it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
It involves very high government officials, and people need to know the truth. They need to see the evidence and arguments of both sides. That did not happen because the Senate President kept on kicking the can down the road. And so we would like to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's a high-ranking elected public official. But unfortunately, his actions speak louder than words. He has delayed the impeachment proceedings contrary to the very clear mandate and directive of the Constitution, contrary to the very rules of impeachment that the Senate has been using in past impeachment cases and is still valid and existing up to now.
Okay. Pero Attorney Keyosa, yun nga po, naiakyat na ito sa Senado pero June na po ito naiakyat, so or before June. So at saka inatras pa po ito ng Senado from June 2 to June 11. So ang dahilan daw ay bibigyan prioridad ang iba pang mga bills na kailangan nilang ipasa bago magsara ang sesyon sa Senado. So ang tanong ko po dito, Attorney Keyosa, posible po bang maitawid ang impeachment complaint from 19th Congress to 20th Congress?
Posible at dapat if we follow existing jurisprudence and the letter and spirit of the Constitution. If you look at the many decisions of the Supreme Court, starting in 1950 in the Arnold versus Nazareno case, the Neri case, the Mita case, Pimentel case, Garcia case, the Supreme Court has consistently ruled that the Senate is a continuing body. It doesn't cease to exist after June 30 because it is structured to be a continuing body because there will always be 12 senators there, and then the next batch of senators will come in immediately after the end of the term of the outgoing 12 senators. So there's no gap. It's continuing.
Okay.
So it should be. There should be no doubt about that. That's why even if the 19th Congress, the Senate will not be able to finish the hearing, obviously, because Senator Escudero has been delaying it, we should not worry. It will be taken up by the next Congress because the prosecutors coming from the 20th Congress will just join the original prosecutors, and then the 12 senators who are newly elected will just join the 12 remaining senators. The records will be complete. So there's no sense and there is no legal basis for them to say, it will expire, it will be reset. Hindi ho totoo yan because what those people who claim that are citing are the rules of the Senate on ordinary legislative work. They have a separate rule for impeachment, and nothing in that rule says it will be reset. It's just like, because the function here in impeachment is to act as judges. It's just like the Court of Appeals or the Sandigan Bayan or the Supreme Court. When new justices come in or when justices retire or are replaced, they don't go back to square one and then redo the case. They just take it from where the retiring justices or the retiring senators left off. So that's very clear. So it is very sad that people still try to confuse people about the real meaning of the Constitution.
I see. Okay. But Attorney Keyosa, Vice President Sara will question the impeachment trial crossing from 19th to 20th Congress, and at the same time Senate is debating this matter. My question is, just to clarify, this is constitutionally allowed, Attorney Keyosa?
Well, of course they have to debate if they have to, but our point is, and our plea to the good senators is, stand by the Constitution. Don't abdicate your role for political convenience or political accommodation. It's not optional for them to be judges. When you take on a public office, you take it wholly. It's not like you're going to the grocery and you just choose what you want. When this function is given to you, and it's a very clear function of the Senate to act as judges, you cannot shy away from it and say, we don't want to be judges anymore, let's just dismiss the case. That cannot be done. That will be an abdication of your duty, and it might amount to grave abuse of discretion. That might be challenged before the Supreme Court also.
Okay.
So, but that's the point, Jerome, is it's good that you discuss it in media and everybody is properly informed, so that we avoid this situation again where supposedly responsible and high-ranking political leaders come up with statements that are not accurate or even false. They just disregard conveniently the constitutional provisions. They just disregard very clear jurisprudence from the Supreme Court.
Okay.
It's very sad. It's very sad. It just adds to the political instability, and it also adds to the frustration of the Filipino people, because they have to realize that the impeachment is not just their business. This is the business of the Filipino people, because the Filipino people were the ones who filed charges to their elected congressmen. It will be the Filipino people who will be judges to their elected senators. So the process should unfold. It should unfold forthwith, without delay, as soon as possible, immediately. That's what it means. That is settled. There should be no. So we need to know the truth, whether guilty or not guilty. That's the more important one. This is about accountability, due process, and fairness to everyone.
And that's what Senator Risa Ontiveros and Alan Peter Cayetano and in Congress, the incoming Party List Representative Laila De Lima said that that the impeachment is all about accountability. And just to make a point before I end this discussion, Attorney Cayosa, naghayag sila ng frustration sa pagkakadelay ng impeachment na ito. So, ganun din po ba ang inyong pananaw ukol dito?
Of course, we are saddened to see high-ranking officials, senators, Senate. These are mambabatas. They are the lawmakers. They should be the first to respect the highest law of the land, which is the Constitution. They should be the first to respect the laws arising from decisions of the Supreme Court, jurisprudence. Nakakalungkot. Of course, we're saddened. We are frustrated. But we continue to pray for them. We continue to pray for all the senators so that they're be enlightened, and then realize and adhere to the reality or the ideal that they represent and protect the interests of the voters, the Filipino nation, the Filipinos, not a particular political group, person, or their own personal interest.
Okay, I see. And well said, Attorney Cayosa. So, hihintay po natin ang mga developments regarding dito kung magpapatuloy ba ang impeachment na ito or aaksyonan ba ito ng Senado or ibabasura na ito ng ating mga mambabatas. With that, thank you, Attorney Cayosa, for joining us in the program, our constitutional law expert. Thank you, Attorney.
Maraming salamat at sana wag lang nating hintayin. Sana patuloy niyong talakayin ito, educate our people, and we pray there should be pressure on them, public clamor, and we pray for all the senators so that they will do the right thing and not abdicate from their duty of sitting as impeachment judges.
Ayun, babantayan natin ito. Attorney, maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat. Magandang umaga po sa lahat.
And you just heard Attorney Egon Cayosa, the constitutional law expert and former national president of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. And with that, we conclude this edition of Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Together with our production team and technical personnel, this is your host, Jerome Toledo. Until next time, mabuhay, love the Philippines.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. front and center.